Today's sermon is delivered by Venerable Maharagama Ananda Thera, Sandavimala Sanasuna, Valigampitiya, Pokunuvita.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I pay homage to the Blessed One, the Noble One, the fully enlightened One. Dhamma friends, for today's Dhamma sermon, I have selected a particular Dhamma discourse from Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, called Indriya Bhavana Sutta. The literal meaning of the title is the development of the faculties, Indriya Bhavana. According to this sutta, Dhamma friends, on one occasion, when the Buddha was living at Kajangala in a grove of mukelu trees, a certain Brahmin student called Uttara, who was a pupil of Brahmin Parasariya, paid a visit to the Buddha and exchanged greetings, and after that he sat down aside. According to the sutta, Dhamma friends, the Buddha asked a question from Uttara. The Buddha asked Uttara, does the Brahmin Parasariya teach his disciples the development of faculties? Then he responded. Uttara said, he does, Master Gautama. Then again the Buddha inquired, Uttara, if you say so, how does he teach that? Then, Dhamma friends, this Uttara Manavaka told Master Gautama, the Buddha, according to my teacher's point of view, Master Gautama, the Indriya Bhavana, or the development of faculties, is when one does not see forms with his eyes, and when one does not hear sounds with his ear. This is called the development of faculties, or Indriya Bhavana, in my teacher's teaching. Having heard that, Dhamma friends, the Buddha gave beautiful answer, very descriptive answer, which made this Uttara confused. What was that? The intention of the Buddha was not to confuse this person, but he wanted to make him aware what is the real truth is. Then, Dhamma friends, the Buddha said, if that is so, Uttara, according to your teacher's view, then a blind man and a deaf man will have developed faculties. According to what Brahmin Parasariya, your teacher says, those two, the blind and the deaf, have to be people with developed faculties. Because a blind man does not see forms with his eye, and also a deaf man does not hear sounds with his ear. On this basis, Dhamma friends, having heard this, the Uttara, the Brahmin Parasariya's pupil, was silent. He was dismayed, with drooped shoulders, head down, and he went speechless, because he didn't have a proper answer to give. Then, Dhamma friends, Buddha, without addressing Uttara straightforwardly, he then turned towards Venerable Ananda, who was standing aside. Then the Buddha said to Venerable Ananda, the Brahmin Parasariya teaches his disciples this development of faculties in one way, Ananda. But in contrast, in my teaching, but in the Noble One's discipline, the supreme development of the faculties is otherwise. In simple terms, Venerable Parasariya's development of faculties is one, and my teaching of the same is another. So, at this juncture, Dhamma friends, Venerable Ananda asked from the Buddha, requested from the Buddha, if that is so, Master, then it is time you to teach us what is the real noble development of faculties. What is the noble Indriya Bhavana in your teachings? It is the time to preaching. It is the time to preach, Master Gautama. Then he said. Then the Buddha, having received this request, decided to preach, to expound what the real Indriya Bhavana according to his teaching. At the juncture, Dhamma friends, you should think about this. Why did Buddha uses this type of method to teach Dhamma to this Uttara? Because he was conceited person, because he thought his teaching was correct. But here the Buddha wanted to point him out, to teach him that the one you have practiced is wrong, but this is the real development of faculties that you should practice. According to this teaching, Dhamma friends, Buddha says, Ananda, when a bhikkhu sees a form with his eye, now the Buddha is going to preach what the real development faculties is. Here the Buddha says, when the bhikkhu sees a form with the eye, there arises in him what is agreeable and what is disagreeable, and both agreeable and disagreeable. We call them manapa, amanapa and manapa amanapa in Pali. Then having realized this is agreeable and this is disagreeable and this is agreeable and disagreeable forms, then what does he do? Then after understanding these arising of these three kind of forms, Dhamma friends, then he contemplate. These are conditioned things. These are gross things, and these are dependently arising things. Then he thinks to himself, I should set aside all these three types of feelings. Then he should focus his attention to equanimity, which is peaceful and sublime. So in the same way, Dhamma friends, Buddha says, just here, the way how he should set aside all these agreeable, disagreeable and both agreeable and disagreeable feelings. Just as a man with good sight, having opened his eyes, might shut them, and having shut his eyes might open them. So too, Dhamma friends, here the Buddha says, in that speed, in such a speed, he should set aside all these agreeable, disagreeable and agreeable and disagreeable things. When he contemplate in such a speed, Dhamma friends, then that quickly, that rapidly and then easily, what happens is the equanimity is established within. He develops equanimity, to which we call upeksha. Then, Dhamma friends, Buddha said, this is the development of faculties. This is the Indriya Bhavana in my teaching. So, Dhamma friends, just as we examine the forms that we see through the eyes, then in the same way, Buddha says, when a bhikkhu hears a sound with the ear, as we expounded before, he should contemplate these are agreeable, these are disagreeable, and these are both agreeable and disagreeable. Having experienced them, he should again contemplate these are conditioned, and these are gross, these are dependently arisen. And he would aside all these three types of sensations, then he would set his mind on equanimity, which is peaceful and sublime. So Buddha again gives an example for the speed that he should contemplate this thought in terms of the ear. He says, just as a strong man might easily snap his fingers, in such a speed he should contemplate that. Again, Dhamma friends, the Buddha refers the same method, the smells and odors that he experienced with the nose. Here, Dhamma friends, the Buddha says, all the agreeable and disagreeable and both agreeable and disagreeable odors, he should contemplate very fast. Just as raindrops on a slightly sloping lotus leaf roll off and do not remain there, in such a speed he should contemplate his thoughts. As a result of that, his mind will become established in equanimity, which is peaceful and sublime. Again, Dhamma friends, the Buddha refers to the flavors that he tastes through the tongue. Here the Buddha says, when a monk feels agreeable tastes, disagreeable tastes, and both agreeable and disagreeable tastes, and in the same way he should contemplate these are conditioned and these are gross, these are dependently arisen. Then again, Dhamma friends, his mind get established in equanimity, which is peaceful and sublime, in such a speed, just as the raindrops on a slightly sloping lotus leaf roll off and do not remain there. In such a speed, he will contemplate all these three types of feelings and get rid of them. Then, Dhamma friends, again the Buddha refers to the tastes that he feels through the tongue, we call gustatory consciousness. Then he receives, he experiences that this is an agreeable taste and this is a disagreeable taste and this is an both agreeable and disagreeable tastes. Here, after contemplating the same way, these are conditioned and these are gross and these are dependently arisen, then as far as this is concerned, in such a speed, just as a strong man might easily spit out a ball of spittle collected on the tip of his tongue, the Buddha says that he should contemplate all these three types of sensations and get rid of that in order to establish his mind in the equanimity. Then again, Dhamma friends, the Buddha says how a monk should practice the same Indriya Bhavana in terms of the body sensations. When a bhikkhu touches a tangible with the body, Dhamma friends, the Buddha says, if that is agreeable, disagreeable, and both agreeable and disagreeable, he should contemplate them against these three characteristics. What are they? These are conditioned, these are gross, and these are dependently arisen. Then after that, in such a speed, he should contemplate, just as a strong man might extend his flexed arm or flex his extended arm, he should get rid of all these three types of sensations and he should take measures to establish his mind in the vidarshana insight. We call vidarshana upekha, the equanimity, which is a noble one's practice. Then, Dhamma friends, there comes the example in terms of the mind. Then Buddha says, when a bhikkhu realizes the thoughts that I experience are agreeable, disagreeable, and both agreeable and disagreeable, in the same way he should contemplate these things are conditioned, gross, and dependently arisen. Then I should get rid of these things and set my mind in equanimity, which is peaceful and sublime. The Buddha gives an example, Dhamma friends. This is very special. He says, just as if a man were to let 2 or 3 drops of water fall onto an iron plate, heated for a whole day, you can just imagine, the falling of the drops might be slow, but they would quickly vaporize and vanish. And this is, you can see the example, what is the speed, how fast it should be done. Then, Dhamma friends, the Buddha says, that is how there is the supreme development of the faculties in the noble one's discipline. This is the Indriya Bhavana. Then, Dhamma friends, in the same discourse, the Buddha explained what is the Seka Patipada, what is the trainee's course in this Indriya Bhavana. Here the Buddha says, when a bhikkhu sees a form with the eye, hears a sound with the ear, smells an odor with the nose, and tastes a flavor with the tongue, touches a tangible with the body, or cognizes a mind object with the mind, what does he do? Then he get to know there arises what is agreeable, and there arises what is disagreeable, and there arises what is both agreeable and disagreeable. Then, Dhamma friends, he recognized these in contrast to the earlier procedure. Here, this Seka person, the trainee, who is higher than the normal Pratagjana, the worldling, then he become repelled, he become humiliated, he become disgusted against all these sensations. Then what happened? This is how one is a disciple in the higher training, Seka, the Buddha says. Then, Dhamma friends, this is the Seka Patipada of the Indriya Bhavana. Then comes, Dhamma friends, the exact Indriya Bhavana practiced by Arhant, to which we call a noble one. This is special, Dhamma friends. Here Buddha says, when a bhikkhu or the Arhant sees a form with the eye, hears a sound with the ear, smells an odor with the nose, tastes a flavor with the tongue, touches a tangible with the body, cognizes a mind object with the mind, then what happened, Dhamma friends? As we mentioned before, there comes the agreeable, there comes the disagreeable, and there comes the both agreeable and disagreeable. Here the noble one takes the control of the mind in contrast to the previous 2 procedures, Dhamma friends. Here, Buddha says, if the noble one should wish, may I abide perceiving unrepulsive in the repulsive, he abides so. And again, if he should wish, may I abide perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive, he abides so. And again, if he should wish, may I abide perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive and unrepulsive, he abides so. Then, as the fourth measure, if he should wish, may I abide perceiving the repulsive in both unrepulsive and repulsive, he abides so. Lastly, Dhamma friends, if he should wish, may I, avoiding both the repulsive and unrepulsive, abide in equanimity. As we mentioned before, he abides there mindful and fully aware. This is how, Dhamma friends, the Buddha describes the Indriya Bhavana of a noble one with developed faculties. Here, Dhamma friends, having preached so, the Buddha briefs the same to Venerable Ananda. Then he recalls, Ananda, I have taught the supreme development of faculties in the noble one's discipline to you. And also I have taught the discipline of the higher training, to which we call Seeker, who has entered upon the way he has been taught. So this thing also I taught you. Then again the Buddha says, I have taught you the noble one with the developed faculties. What is the nature of the Arahant? Then again here, the Dhamma friends, the Buddha reminds the Venerable Ananda what should be done for his disciples out of compassion by a teacher who seeks their welfare and has compassion for them. Here, I have done for you. That I have done for you. Then, Ananda, there are these roots of trees. There are these empty huts all over. Meditate, Ananda. Do not delay, or else you will regret it later. Buddha reminds, this is my instruction for you. So this is very invaluable. This is invaluable instruction for not only for Venerable Ananda Dhamma friends. This is for all of us, irrespective of your religion, irrespective of your race, irrespective of your country. If you develop your faculties to at least to a certain extent, the positive outcome is for you. So you have to experience the positive outcome. Therefore, Dhamma friends, being people, being humans, although you are born with 6 faculties which are developed or not developed, it is your duty. When you die, at least immediately before when you die, you have to make sure that you have developed your faculties at least to some extent, although you can't develop them unto Arahant's level. So this is up to you. Then how should you develop your faculties? Remember, Dhamma friends, always you have to be vigilant. You have to be well aware what you see. If you see something agreeable, then you should recognize this is agreeable. When you see something disagreeable, you have to recognize that this is disagreeable. And when you see something agreeable and disagreeable, we call in Pali adukkama sukha, then you should know that this is agreeable and disagreeable. The very special point is this, Dhamma friends. We tend to think that agreeable and disagreeable is upeksha or equanimity. That is wrong. Here the Buddha says, when you set aside all the agreeable, the disagreeable, and agreeable and disagreeable, only you can reach the special state of vipassana upekka, to which we call insightful equanimity. This is the focus. This should be your focus, Dhamma friends, because such an upekka, such an equanimity is the thing which takes you, which paves the way to Nibbana, the final deliverance from all the suffering. Here, this Indriya Bhavana Sutta, as Buddha taught Venerable Ananda and all the congregation of the monks and this very humble youth, Uttara Mahanavaka, very important point, Dhamma friends. Indriya Bhavana. Indriya are the 6 sense organs. Bhavana, the literal meaning of which is development. Normally we tell that we tend to use the word meditation for bhavana. But Dhamma friends, according to my point of view, the best word for bhavana is not meditation. The best word for bhavana is mental culture. Because in bhavana, we develop the mind from its present state to higher and subtler states. That is why we should use the word mental culture, especially when we are speaking English, because otherwise it would misguide some people having heard this word. Therefore, Dhamma friends, you should train yourself in your level best, in your day-to-day life. It is not rocket science. It is not that complicated. Or the only thing that you have to do is you have to be vigilant. You have to be well aware what you see. And don't let all the three unwholesome roots, to which we call lobha, dosa and moha, control your mind. This is simply as that. So if you can make sure that you are not allowing all these three unwholesome roots, which we call lobha, dosa and moha, take the control of your mind, then to some extent you are a person with developed faculties. And here in this sutta, the Buddha distinguishes between three levels of mind development. What are they? The Indriya Bhavana of the worldling, and the Indriya Bhavana of the Seka person, to which we call the trainee, and the Indriya Bhavana of the Arahant, the enlightened one. These are three different steps, but based on the same foundation, Dhamma friends. The foundation is this: you have to avoid all agreeable, disagreeable, and both agreeable and disagreeable things, the sensations. If you should focus your attention to the vipassana insight, insightful equanimity, vipassana upekha. So if you can do that thing, then Dhamma friends, you are in a position to train your mind further until you become an enlightened one. Remember, although enlightened ones, the Arahants have extinguished, Arahants have eradicated all the defilements, and they have done what is to be done, or still they engage in meditation. Because, Dhamma friends, this mental culture, to which we call meditation, is something very serene, is something very peaceful. It is something very pleasurable, calm and quiet, which can be enjoyed by living in the serenity. Therefore, if Arahants are still doing this mental culture, why should not we do that? So, thinking in that way, you have to engage in this Indriya Bhavana in your day-to-day life without any further delay. So, you have to read some books, get some instruction from experienced meditators. Then at least you have to start yourself. Take the first step. You have to start with very simple procedure, and down the order you can go some subtler levels of this bhavana in the due course. So, having heard that, Dhamma friends, this is the Indriya Bhavana Sutta that we find in the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha. The crux of this discourse depends on how to tethering your six senses. On one occasion, a person asked from the Buddha, "What is all?" Then Buddha says, all is this: all your six sense organs and all the objects of the six sense organs. What are the six sense organs? Chakku, sota, gana, jivha, kaya, mana. Chakku is eye, sota is ear, gana is your nose, chakku, sota, gana, jivha is your tongue, then kaya is your body, mana is your mind. What are the objects of these six? The forms is for eye, then sound is for ear, then odor is for your nose, then taste is for your tongue, and touches is for your body, and dharmas, or the feelings or the thoughts, for your mind. This is all, Dhamma friends. If you remove all these all from the world, then that is the liberation, the Buddha says. Salayatana Nirodha is a similar word for Nibbana. Salayatana means the six sense organs. If you can extinguish all these six sense organs along with their subjects, Dhamma friends, objects, Dhamma friends, then the Buddha says that is Nibbana. Therefore, without taking this discourse to any further heights, Dhamma friends, let us conclude this Dhamma sermon. So this, as I told you before, what we examined today was the development of faculties, to which we call Indriya Bhavana Sutta. So it is up to you, Dhamma friends. You have to practice this yourself, because there's no redeemer in Buddhism. There's no one to come and help you to get out of this samsara. No, even the Buddha can only guide you. It is over to you to practice in your level best. Having said that, Dhamma friends, now recall to your mind all the meritorious deeds that we have accrued by hearing this Dhamma sermon unto now, and all the meritorious deeds that I have accrued by preaching this Dhamma to you. Let all the deities who protect this world, to this race, to this country, and Buddhism and all the other religions, may they rejoice in this Dhamma, may they rejoice in these merits, and may they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. In the same way, Dhamma friends, let us transfer all these merits for all our departed relatives. May they realize Nibbana in due course. And also, let us rejoice in these merits ourselves, because we have heard Dhamma, then I have preached Dhamma. From the power of all the merits that we have accrued, let us wish for ourselves, may us have good life in this world, and may us have a good life in the life to come. And finally, may we all realize the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the noble triple gem bless you.
The Buddhist sermon was delivered by Venerable Maharagama Ananda Thera, Sandavimala Sanasuna, Valigampitiya, Pokunu Vita.